Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again, as if we never left. It's the Black Psychologist Podcast, also known as the eighth wonder of the world. Appreciate everyone being here with us, including our first time and last time listeners. You could be anywhere in the world doing anything else, but you're here tuning into us, and we're grateful for that. I am one half of your humble and gracious host, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, all of you know by now, I'm never alone on this journey. Let me tell you about this guy. He is the myth, the legend. You might catch him at the jewelry store. He's forever energetic, the polarizing, the best psychologist you'll ever meet. New Jersey's finest, Dr. Jason Coleman. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on, bro? That's a lot of accolades, man. I appreciate it. What's going on, though? What's up with you, man?
Nothing, man. Nothing. You know, we here. And, it's May, brother. It's May. You know, we here full spring, full bloom.
Yeah, you can't really tell out here. Like I was telling you, man, it's cold out here in Jersey and it's raining. So it don't feel like May. Feel like
you know it's going to heat up. You know, that heat is just around the corner. You know that.
Yeah. You know how it go, man. But
how was your Mother's Day, bro? You make it rain on the lovely ladies?
Of course, man. You know, always gonna take care of mom. You know,
of course.
So you know, flowers, the whole nine, the gift, all of that.
There you
go.
She
had a good day though. What about you? You took care of business or?
Yeah, it was cool, man. Took the boss lady up to go see Wicked.
Yeah, I saw that.
That was cool. Listen, that was my first time seeing it. A lot of people had recommended it and talked about it. And bro, like that thing was phenomenal.
Oh, for real?
It was. Like, listen,
how long has it been up there?
Since forever, it seems like. Like when you go in there, even to the theater, they have like a whole host and variety of like pictures of people that have acted in it like years and years previous. Like it's been up there for a while, bro. Like it's a mainstay. And I've seen like Les Mis, I've seen The Lion King. But this was absolute like amazing. This was great. This was Wicked was good. I recommend if you do see a lot of, if you're in the theater and you haven't seen it, yeah, definitely go check that out. Anybody listening or watching. But like I know people, they've seen it like 2-3 times, bro. It was great.
2-3 times.
Yeah, people I know have seen it like 2-3. It is that good. It really is.
Okay. Yeah. I heard good things about the Michael Jackson joint too.
That's on the list also.
And like I told you, I was late to the party, but I saw Hamilton, and that was good.
Yeah.
That was real good.
Yeah.
Listen, I went. I ain't really even expected to be good, but it was good. Now, I'm not a theater guy like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Outside of the theater, bro, you've been watching these playoffs, man. What do you feel about your about the Heat and everything in Boston and all the rest of them, in the Lakers, former Lakers?
I mean, listen, my Lakers is gone. LeBron James home. I think the Nuggets is going to take it. I think Jimmy going to show up, Jimmy Butler, but I think the Nuggets going to ultimately pull it out. But ain't too much. It's not too much star power. Well, I ain't gonna say star power. I'm not gonna disrespect, but you know what I mean. Like, the Lakers and the Celtics are about to be gone, bro. So, I don't know, man. It ain't turned out how I wanted.
No, that's something that I actually appreciated. Like this playoff, all of the playoff series. It's like it's been a lot of parity, and like it's been competitive. It hasn't been like your typical these same teams that you see. Like I like Golden State. At the same time, it is good to see like just how competitive it is. Like nobody expected the Heat to be in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, especially Boston. I don't know what Grant Williams was doing. I don't know if he was trying to do some psychological warfare and poking, poking the bear, but that was a right plan, wrong person. You don't do that to Jimmy, and he found out the hard way.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, so they about to get up out of there probably tomorrow. I think they play tomorrow night.
Yeah, that wasn't That was like a LeBron, Dylan Brooks situation, man.
Yeah. They all. Yeah,
but you know, it's been like I said, it hasn't been disappointed. It ain't turned out how I wanted, but it's been good games though. I can't even lie. But
speaking of Dylan Brooks, let's get into his teammate, man. All right. So the Grizzlies are about 3 to 4 weeks into their off season, and unfortunately, another Instagram Live video has surfaced about their star, Ja Morant. All right. Now this one seemed it's shown now it wasn't his live, it was his friend's live. So one of his homies that was on IG Live. And in this video, it seemed that Morant was in the car, you know, with his friend. You know, they're vibing to some music, and then yet again he brandishes a firearm. All right. And now it's not clear whose gun it is. They haven't gotten into that. But again, this is the same issue that we just ran into a couple months ago, right? It doesn't even feel like that long ago, like, but it was literally like in March. Same issue with him brandishing a firearm on IG. The NBA released a statement. They said, we are aware of the social media posts involving Ja Morant and are in the process of gathering more information. And then subsequently, the Grizzlies have suspended him from all team activities as it continues to investigate the situation. Ja let out he retweeted a post not too long after, and it read, "I know I've disappointed a lot of people who have supported me. This is a journey, and I recognize there is more work to do. My words may not mean much right now, but I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm committed to continuing to work on myself." All right, so that's where he released, and now it's a continuing, ongoing situation. Jay. All right, so listen. All right. This has been a question that I'm sure you've gotten. I've gotten it a lot from a lot of different people, kind of just always asking, like, why does this continue to happen? What's going on with Ja, so on and so forth. All right. I look at it like this, right? Like when you look at the function of any type of human behavior, right? It's a combination of what the person is experiencing and the environment. And in this case, it's what's going on with him. And I do think he's experiencing something. We'll definitely get into that later on in the conversation. And it's his environment. And the environment is the NBA, right? And this is what it is. Like, it's, for me, it's been a lack of punishment, lack of consequences. And unfortunately, this behavior has been negatively reinforced and enabled, right? If we look at it, when it first came out, the first situation, essentially, like, he stepped away on his own, right? It was on his own accord, right? He stepped away after all the videos, and then more information came out, and what was it, like 6 games that he had voluntarily like said, oh, I'm just going to step away to take some time to work on myself, or whatever he said. And then the NBA came in and said, yeah, we're going to suspend him for 8 games. So 6 of those games were already like a time served type of situation, right? And then 2 more games. He went away to some, I don't know, some retreat that and somewhere in Florida that he was talking about. And that was it, right? Like, to me, like, that's not a punishment. That's not a situation where you're putting something in place where you hope that that's going to deter the behavior. It was essentially like, hey, I'm stepping away on my own accord. Oh, we'll throw these couple games in. And then he just came right back to playing. Like, there really wasn't any type of, intervention or any type of impact or situation that's like could cause him like, all right, you know what, let me seriously think about adjusting my behavior. So that's the environmental piece, right? It's almost like, all right, well, I can do this and nothing's going to take place. So that continues to reinforce or enable the behavior. And then a lot of people have talked about, like, the other part of his environment is like the family dynamics, right? Where they're like, oh, well, his parents or the people around him and so on and so forth. And I look at that like, well, it's a different situation when, all right, you have family and you have people that are close to you that are supposed to, be around you, keep you grounded, or whatever the situation is, right? Whatever their roles are going to be, they're supposed to keep it real with you. But the dynamics change when like you're now the benefactor of everything and everybody, right? Like your mom and your dad and your family are cool. They might be honest with you until they quit their job and now you're supporting them, right? Now everyone's stopped what they're normally doing and they're supporting you and you're supporting everybody financially. And that's when things start to switch up, right? It's no longer a lot of times they're going to be honest with you or they're going to be giving you the best advice. They're going to tell you what you want to hear because you're now sponsoring every situation. You're sponsoring everybody, the go-to person. You know what I mean? The parents, or even friends, like all these other people that they say are supposed to be like the inner circle, as they always say, right? People are like, oh, you need to switch up your inner. Like, no, the environment, like, dude, like he's in control of everything, right? They're talking about, oh, well, having a veteran or somebody else kind of come in and talk to him. Like, no, that's not it. Like that, the environment aspect of things has not been helpful in anything. Now, I'm not absolving him of any type of responsibility and accountability because I'm definitely not, because he's in control of all of this. But there's a component, and this kept coming up, right? And I kept like cringing every time they would say, oh, well, his dad and his family. I'm like, yo, his dad and his mom were calling him into situations like we talked about last time. You see what I mean? The NBA is not doing him favors. Like this, I wouldn't even call it a slap on the wrist. It's oh, okay, he's handling himself. And then he came back like nothing ever happened. So he has that feeling of invincibility because he's not. There's no mechanism of change.
But this is the thing, bro. And I get it. Like I understand what you're saying, but think about it, right? Like John Morant, right? Like what we're describing is like the way he's moving, right? He's moving like somebody that has none of what he has, right? He's moving like somebody that has no family around him, right? That doesn't have his parents traveling with him on the road, right? He's moving like a person it's just poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, right? And he has had consequences. Even if he's suspended for 8 games, right? That's a lot of money he's losing. The Nike deal is definitely in jeopardy, right? Because they pulled the sneaker, right? No matter how many games he gets suspended, of course, he's going to lose a hell of a lot of money, right? But again, we're just talking about somebody who keeps making poor decision after poor decision after poor decision, right? And I understand what you're saying, but it's almost like the perspective you coming from is like, yo, the NBA's job is to get him back on the court.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's not to make him a better man. Like,
absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of the standpoint that all of us sometimes come from when they're like, oh yeah, because we was talking about it. We knew the counseling was BS, but they just wanted to be able to say he went to counseling. You understand?
What did they say, Jay? He came out. He said, "Oh, I learned some deep breathing and some other skills." And I'm like, bro, that's not the way this works,
bro. But anybody, you would have known that, right? Because what he said is he went there to learn stress management, right? And he didn't get suspended for poor stress management or not having coping skills for stress management. He got suspended for poor decision making.
Correct.
Right. So the issue never was addressed anyway. Right. Now the NBA's job is to get him back. So this is why I was pushing back a little bit when you was talking, and I said even his parents, right? Because that is who's supposed to get you whatever help you really need. Whether that's a real sit down, whether that's whatever's going on, you're going to have to do it alone without our support if you don't take our direction. The things that parents, guardians, older brothers, anybody who's had to be an adult, right, has had to do for somebody who's not. So that's what I would mean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing we've seen. And again, Jai is neither one of our patients or our clients. We don't know him personally. We can go based off the information that's available.
Yeah,
to us. We've seen this. Like we've seen how the parents, like, it's again how the roles change. Where anytime something pops off, go get Ja, right? Not even a situation. Go get somebody. Go get Ja. Something happens at the volleyball game. Go get Ja. Something happens at the finish line. Go get Ja. Go get so-and-so, right? Like you're going to get the person, one, that's taking care of everybody. So that tells you kind of how skewed and kind of how enmeshed the relationship is, or the family dynamics, where, you see what I mean? where the family, anytime something pops off or there's an issue, go get him. Right. So we see again that environment, when people bring that up, it's just like it's mind-boggling. Because I'm like, no, that's not the supportive factor that people are saying it's supposed to be or it should be or so on and so forth. Right. Because we've seen how that operates. And so
listen, all I can say is think about it. It's how many hundreds of NBA players, right? I'm not saying they all making millions of dollars, right? But they all making substantially more than their families, right? And and the only reason why I'm bringing it up is we don't hear these stories over and over and over again. We hear them enough to know that they happen, and we have proof that they've happened. But there's plenty of stars. There's probably more stars that we hear nothing about, right? Because they take care of some of their family members. Their family members protect the investment. We don't hear about their parents just jumping ship and blindly going along with what they're saying and starting fights in malls, and you know what I mean? So it's obviously a reflection of the chaotic nature of what appears to be going on here, you know what I mean, in this family. So it's decision making. And like I said, we can only go by what we know. We don't know any of these people personally, right? And listen, poor decision making, people don't roll out of the bed and just start making poor decisions, right? And if you go by the news reports, which aren't always right, but we got to go by what we read, right? His father is driving him, right? Who just signed the $300 million contract to his daughter's conflict. So we got all sorts of problems. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is if that's true, and we don't know if it's totally true, but if that's true, and that's what your dad is doing, what do you expect from him? And you can't turn around at this point and be like, you know what? Forget everything I did and said before. It's kind of hard to do that. So,
and I think and funny for the reason that you see a lot of people, I don't want to call them stupid, I'm going to say misinformed, that are like, oh, well,
you funny.
that are, oh, well, he's just holding a gun. Like, he didn't shoot anybody. He didn't do anything, so on and so forth. And I don't think people understand how it works. Like, right. One, there's a morality clause, right? When you join the NBA or any type of professional sports league or corporation, it's a private organization. So there's something called a morality clause where when you conduct yourself in a certain manner, that's pretty much, and I'm going to highlight what you mentioned earlier, Jay, it's a business. It's a money-oriented type of situation. The NBA, the Grizzlies want to make sure that he gets back on the floor. They're not really worried about your well-being and so on and so forth. It's get you back on the floor. Let's mitigate this backlash and all this negative publicity. Let's hold on to as many sponsors as possible. At the same time, he knows that. So this is also, I feel like, contributing to the poor decision making. When you know that, hey, I'm him, right? I'm John Morant. You're not going to cut me, right? I know that even, and I'm sure there are other people in his ear saying, like, listen, even if Memphis were to go to the deep end, like an extreme reaction, and even cut him, there are other teams that will pick him up immediately, right? So it's almost like, the punishment or whatever reaction that is going to take place, all right, it might be harsher than the 8 games and such, and you're going to lose money. At the same time, you're still going to continue making money in the long run. But he has to understand, like, listen, when you want to go out, and there are plenty of 23, 24-year-olds that do this all the time on live, right? Regular, typical, normal 24, 25, however old you are, to get on IG, flash whatever firearm they have, and so on and so forth. But when you, John Morant, are part of the NBA, and you go on live and it's, yeah, I'm him, don't mess with me, I get it in, whatever. No, that's bad for business. That's bad for the league. That's bad for the Grizzlies. And you're losing money every time you do that, right? And that's the thing. That's the backlash. That's what's going into poor decision making. No, he didn't hurt anybody. He didn't do anything of that nature. He didn't shoot anybody, so on and so forth. But you're hurting the bottom line of the NBA and of the league. And when sponsors start to pull out, like you said, whether it be his personal sponsors or sponsors of the league or that team, this is where the issue comes in, right? This is why it's a bigotry. This is why it's fallout, because, dude, you're a part of a private entity, right? And what you represent it's so much more than just you wanted to express yourself in whatever terms it was.
Well, and you're entirely right. And that's why they're gonna give him chance after chance.
But and he knows that.
You know as well as I do, like it comes to a point, right? Like put it like this. The reason why they're coming down so harsh on him is because situations spiral out of control very fast, and then none of this matters, right? So if he ends up in a Plexico Burress situation, none of this matters. He gets cut, and that's it, right? When what they're talking about with the alcohol in terms of being, wanting him to slow down, if he ends up in a Henry Ruggs type situation, God forbid, none of this matters, right? So that's why you have people that are, kind of addressing the situation with such urgency. But again, this is a decision-making thing, right? So it's going to come down to whatever has to happen. And, people don't change their decision-making usually in the real world, until either they A, lose enough, or B, somebody that they respect, admire, or both, puts them in their place, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? So, and if those things, if you don't have the type of people around him, around you, that can do one of the two of those things, then you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Hopefully one happens before you lose it all,
And that's
to see that happen. But
that's what I'm concerned about.
The last thing I'll say is, not even to cut you off, remember what's happening now in terms of, we don't want to suspect anything, but we got the tweets coming out.
Yeah.
Where they feel like people are concerned enough where they have to do a welfare check. Right. So obviously he is feeling the impact of this. You know what I mean? But it may be a reflection, may not, but it may be a reflection of, him not having the support. My bad. Go ahead.
No, I'm what I'm concerned about is when you conduct yourself in this manner, right? And you and I know what type of attention that this brings, right? So if you're on live, if you keep finding yourself in a situation where you're displaying a certain particular type of life, you get negative energy from that type of situation, right? If you're saying like you're riding around, or anytime you want to get on live, you're showing that type of energy, that energy tends to follow. Right? People, and I know, like people, you're already a target because you're an NBA player, right? That's just what it is, right? Anytime you go, people see money, people see dollar signs. But now you're projecting that particular type of life, that stuff follows that, man. You put yourself even more on the radar, not just on the radar, one, of law enforcement, because again, I don't know what the laws are in Memphis. I don't know if that's his gun, he's licensed to carry, whatever the situation is. But like, it brings a lot of different type of energy. What you're putting out there in the universe will come out. Like if you're saying, oh yeah, I'm a thug, I'll get it in. Well, guess what? People will call you on that. You know that, and I know, Jay. I don't know if you saw the beginning of the video, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's standing on top of, I think, the truck, right? And it like, I don't know if you saw like the neighborhood. I don't know what neighborhood it is, but it did look like it was a neighborhood. And I'm not being judgmental, but I'm gonna call it like I see it, right? It did look like it was a neighborhood where somebody, if you're making 20, 25 million a year, you shouldn't be in that neighborhood, right? Now, again, I don't know if you're surrounded by people that are protecting you, whatever the situation is, but again, it comes into your decision-making, because if you are going to display that type of energy, people are going to put you at that, man. Like, and I hope my concerns is that I hope that he doesn't learn the lesson in that manner, right? Where it's personal, where it affects his health or his livelihood. But you know how that works, though, Jay. You know that happens.
But see, this is the thing. Like, people is concerned, but listen, he's not going to be the first, and he wouldn't be the last. You understand? Like, he's 23. He's obviously enamored with that culture. So it's like, yo, there's things he's going to do, right? He has access to every person and everybody. He just signed a contract for $200 million. So again, is he making the best decisions right now? No. It's costing him millions already. You know what I mean? But again, like we talking about a person that has access to everything. They got the world at their fingertips. So
let me ask you this, right? Because Ja comes from pretty humble beginnings. Again, I don't know him personally, but I know he comes from a small town in the Carolinas, and do you think that he even cares about losing the money? I mean, he's made
he's not a
amount.
fool. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Some
Yo,
people,
I think because
some
at the end of
people
the
might
day,
not. I mean, he's made enough. He's made a lot of money though thus far. I mean, I don't know. You think?
But he's not a fool. At the end of the day, he cares about. That's probably the only time he feels it is when he can't be on the basketball court and when he can't cash some checks. He probably feel invincible every other minute because as soon as he leaves the basketball court, he's back in the world, right? So if you're John Morant and you in Memphis or you in Carolina, everywhere you go, it's probably a show. You know what I mean? Like, so I get what you're saying, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying he can't be in danger nowhere, but do I think he's probably in danger where he's at doing the IG video and all that? Most likely no, because he probably know where he can move around and he got, people that he cool with and this and that. It's just how things work. You know what I mean? But is it the best decision? No. But you go on IG right now, and it's not, to me, it's like you'll see 1,000 videos like that. That's just what they do. That's right. What they doing. You know what I mean?
But everybody's not Ja.
Right. So I'm not trying to downplay it, but you'll also look and see all of the celebrities and the rappers and all that supporting them. So look at the messages that he's getting. It's like the NBA suspending him. He's losing, money, financial support, all of this, resources. But, he's also like, he's getting cosigns from people that he would have never imagined. You understand what I'm saying? Which is more important? I mean, I know which one would be more important to me, but he's what, 23, 24?
Yeah, 23, yeah.
So, again, it comes down to poor decision-making. And if you don't have, listen, what you're saying is true, but, bro, do you really think that LeBron James is probably worth, I don't want to speculate, but would we be surprised if he's worth $1 billion?
Nah, I think he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, his mother, it's not crazy of me to speculate that his mother is not worth $1 billion. He is, right? But if she wanted to tell him something, do you think because she ain't worth $1 billion, he's not going to listen? We don't know any of these people. We're speculating. So, but that's my point, though.
Yeah.
What about P. Diddy's mother? What if she wanted to tell him something? So in the context of that, who is John Morant?
Right.
He's just a guy. Respectfully, he's a rich guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people get rich and they have families. That doesn't mean that they still don't go to their father, their uncle, or their brother, or their homie that is a lawyer or has a regular job or is a security guard and say, "Yo, what should I do?" This is what people do. You know what I mean? Like we just talking, but I'm like, you don't just get rich and then be like, oh, all of a sudden, anybody who doesn't have $3 million in the bank can't give me no advice. Sometimes those are the only people that could give you advice because you're gonna get up there and realize that what that world is about. So who knows what his situation is now, but we could see what it looked like.
I'll say this, man, and kind of before we advance forward, in regards to decision making, I'm gonna keep it very concrete, bro. Just stop getting on IG Live. Like nothing good has come of it, right?
Yeah.
Like let's go. Like your IG Live have gotten you nowhere. It's got negative attention wherever you're at, like whether it be yours or your friends. Like, and it seemed like honestly, like his friend tried to like shoot him some bail because he pulled the camera down. And it was like, Josh was like, no, get me with the gun. Like, bro, like, listen, like, stop, stay off of IG Live, bro. Like, I get it. People of this generation, just kind of generally talking, that's the view me. you know what I mean, generation. Everything, you know what I mean? I got to put everything. You got to give views, so on and so forth. I got to show everybody. But, bro, like, nothing good has come to it. I mean, bro, just ask Paul Pierce, right? Even he said it. He's like, look, I got fired for having a good time. And if I didn't put it on IG, I'd still be employed.
Yeah.
You
that
see
was crazy, too.
Yeah.
We'll talk. You know, we ain't got to talk about that.
Right. But just Ja, man, if I recommend anything, brother, is absolutely – there's something going on. I don't know you, but there's absolutely you're dealing with something. You're experiencing something. Like, please get the help that you need. I hope you do, and stay off the IG live, bro. Like it's not working out for you. It's not at all. So, something just popped into my brain before we move forward. I'd be remiss also, Jay, since we're talking about sports, if we didn't acknowledge that we lost, unfortunately, 2 icons. The first one I'm thinking about is Jim Brown. Jim Brown passed away recently at the age of 87, and Tina Turner just passed away earlier today. She passed away, I think, 83 years old. So absolutely want to acknowledge them. I mean, they are the paragon of strength, resilience, especially given and taking into consideration what they not only represented, but what they had to go through to pave the way for some of our notable and popular athletes and entertainers now. Two very, very important individuals, not only to our culture, but just to the whole world and what they contributed and with fighting for, especially with Jim Brown regarding the civil rights and his contribution and his involvement, two huge losses that the world has suffered. So absolutely want to acknowledge them, their families. Our thoughts and prayers go out to them as they, go through this grieving process. And had to shout that out, man, because that's two big losses there.
Man, listen, definitely rest in peace, Jim Brown, civil rights, hero, legend, you know what I mean? Of course, on the field, I think he was like a 3-sport All-American or whatever, lacrosse, basketball, football, Browns, of course, championship 1964. I think he retired at the age of 30.
Yeah.
Dude was, and then if we talking about, if we just being honest, everything he did, after that was even more legendary, just in terms of, being a role model for African Americans, males and just people in general, but definitely men, right? So, listen, man, you gotta take your hat off to the great Jim Brown,
Absolutely. So, you want to throw that in there before my old brain.
And he was in. I don't know if you remember, but he was in "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker."
Yeah. Listen.
That was one of. Listen, that was one of my favorite movies. So listen man, check that out if you ain't never seen him in that.
Listen, one of my favorite lines from that movie, real quick, is when Keenan was when they first introduced him to the rest of the team, and Jim Brown walked up to him with like, "Yo, what you know about being a black superhero?" Right. And Keenan was like, "I'm a former football player." And Jim was like, "All right."
Yo, man, I'm telling you, legendary.
That's classic, man. Hell of an actor too. Hell of an actor. Since we just mentioned that. But yeah, absolutely. Much respect to him and the legend Tina Turner. Speaking of female representation, now Jay as a proud father of a daughter, a little girl who's now no longer little anymore, but I can vividly remember going to this toy store and buying all types of like dolls, Barbies, Bratz dolls. Like I can vividly remember buying them and then tripping over them throughout the course of baby girl's childhood, right? So Barbie is taking it up another notch, right? And has become quite inclusive over the past few years. So Barbie started off as a tall, blonde, figure or I guess doll, if you want to call it that. But over the past few years, like Dave Mattel, who creates Barbie, has created many iterations of the classic doll. So she has used a wheelchair, They've changed the range of her skin color. They've even celebrated the differences in culture, right? And now, for the first time, Barbie has Down syndrome. Um, and for those people that aren't aware of what Down syndrome is an autosomal disorder that's caused by the presence of an extra 21 chromosome, and it's characterized by intellectual disability and other prominent or distinctive physical features. And what they've done is that they created, as part of the fashionistas line, they created Barbie with Down syndrome as part of Mattel's commitment to help counter social stigma through play. So what they did is that they partnered with the National Down Syndrome Society to bring the product to the market. And so the Barbie with Down syndrome will be available at major retailers this summer and fall for $10.99. And as I was reading this article more and more, I was getting a really pretty good feeling. Jay, what are your thoughts about this?
Listen, I think it's a good thing. Like we was kind of talking about it before. I look at it more as like a psychoeducational tool. I think it'll be a good thing, like to kind of obviously reduce stigma. Anything we can do, for kids if they, to see something in their own likeness, and even kids if it's not how they look, to kind of normalize. Yeah. Because again, the one thing I like about it is, they customize certain features like low muscle tone. They said longer torso, flat nasal bridge. So if you work in like a hospital environment or even environment I do, or around all types of kids, in the article, they were talking about the reaction from some of the adults and the kids, that got to play with this and their reaction to even seeing it. So that's what it really comes down to. I can see the usefulness of it, but it really just comes down to the reaction of people that actually have Down syndrome, to whether it's, something that, is going to be something that we should kind of, use in mass. And it seems like, people are responding well. And I could see it as a good tool. So if you're working at, in these environments, then it's definitely something, you should look to kind of acquire.
I agree. I don't have Down syndrome. I'm not a parent of a child who has Down syndrome. However, I imagine that this is pretty meaningful for individuals in that community, for the reason that this is like the first time that they can play with a Barbie doll that actually like looks like them. Typically when we're talking about diversity, it's usually referencing like gender. It's talking about ethnicity, sexual orientation, or religion, or culture, or something of that nature. However, medical disabilities aren't discussed as frequently as they should be, I feel. And it's important that the general public actually, especially in particular kids that are like at that developmental level, that they get an opportunity to see another population or other people that are out there in the world and are not hidden away, right? It's not like they're trying to hide this population of people. And it's crucial that kids, especially at that developmental age and as they're going through and playing with dolls, because like, and I know, at that particular age where kids' job is to play, right? That is their main job. This is how they learn about the world, whether from, they're at that sensory motor stage to the concrete or peri-operational, like they're learning about their environment around them, right? That they're learning how to play with others. They're using toys, symbolism, all these other different things of how they're, learning about relationships and things of that nature. And it's encouraging for them to see dolls that do not look like them, right? So they're incorporating this information, and it builds like a greater sense of empathy. Like it allows them to learn that everyone is different, right? That it's not just people that look like them, it's other different creeds. But I love the fact that they're incorporating this medical component or the medical disabilities aspect, where they understand it starts questions, right? Conversations, other different things of that nature, and they learn a greater sense of the people around them in other different populations. So I'm loving every part of this, man. This is like really cool. I like the way how they're going about this. To your point, I think it's crucial that they consulted with medical professionals about like the design process or aspect of it, right? Where like they're taking on like the physical components, the body sculpt, all these other different things. And when I was reading that they also consulted and they brought on Ellie Goldstein, who's a British model with Down syndrome, who appears like in the campaign with the with the venture. So like they went about this the right way. Like they just threw it out and was like, oh yeah, we're doing celebrating this particular, you know, Down syndrome, blah, 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 blah. And they just threw it out without doing research or anything. So they went about it the right way, involved the right people. Yeah, I'm fully in support of this. This is cool.
Nah, like I said, I agree. I look at it more like, you know, something that those of us who work in, you know, these environments where, you know, we could either let people know that these toys are out there, or we could either purchase them for our, you know, centers or different places, you know, gotta, it's one of these things where, you know, can only benefit our clients, right? Because we know, I'm saying this a little tongue in cheek, but there's been enough experiments with dolls where we know what happens when we don't see images that look like us. And I'm gonna leave it there. All of it.
Very true. All right. Jay, you're a boss and you get to work from home. Is that correct?
See, you trying to, yeah. I work for somebody, man. Nah.
But you in your with your field, like you're able to, you work remotely at times, right? You can.
Yeah, I do, man. I work
remotely. Right, absolutely. All right. Again, all you know, you're a boss. We're gonna throw that in there. But all right. So a recent study says that remote work comes with daytime drug and drinking habits. So according to a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, it estimates that the number of working age Americans, which is from 25 to 54 years old, with substance use disorders has risen by 23% since pre-pandemic to about 27 million in total. All right. So a drug recovery firm in Sierra Tuscan concluded that from a November 2021 survey that about 20% of the U.S. workers admitted to using recreational drugs while working remotely, and also to being under the influence during virtual meetings. All right. They said now they surveyed about half a dozen addiction specialists who treat mostly employed patients or clients, and they all stated that treatment programs are currently over-enrolled in the wake of the pandemic, and it's fueled by the extended remote or hybrid arrangements that offer a dangerous triad, right? So they mention steady paychecks along with proximity to drugs and alcohol out of view from coworkers, and an incentive to maintain day-to-day functionality. And they said as a result, undetected drug habits have flourished and are only now coming to light as more companies are requiring workers to return back to the office. Right? So
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And so this kind of takes me back to what, as I mentioned, is that function of human behavior, right? You got whatever's going on with the individual and then what the environment is able, right? Some of the cues and different things, what the environment is enabling. So like we know that hiding substance use or drinking or whatever the case may be from the boss has been around as long as people have worked and had bosses, right? You've always had some people try to maybe get over if they smoke or something like on their lunch break or whatever the situation may be, right? Try to make sure if you do it, you don't want your boss to find out. But pre-pandemic, it was a situation where most excess were limited to only like after work, right? It was only a situation where if you did something, you were only doing it like after work. Now, with the situation with remote work being more prevalent, you have a situation where people are experiencing boredom, you got isolation, and they got all this different type of work-related stress at home. And now they can drink or smoke or whatever substance they use to cope right there, like in their living room or in the comfort of their homes, right? So now you got that situation of I'm dealing with this, and now I have an opportunity to get away with it, right? Like you said, I can sign off or I could be in the meeting. I don't have to have my camera on, or sometimes it's not as visible through a Zoom or through a Microsoft Teams meeting, right? So people can experience like hangover or withdrawal symptoms without anyone being the wiser. So that's where you got that like that environmental component that can unfortunately enable more and more drug use. And you got to look at it like a lot of people have been doing this kind of since the pandemic began, right? As far as like the virtual or remote work, and it's gotten worse and worse.
Listen, remember when the pandemic started, like a couple of months in, we were seeing spikes in DV calls, right? Spikes in calls of GCP&P, spikes in alcohol use, right? So this is just basically the aftermath of that, right? And I get it, right? Because, you know, you got a combination of certain things going on, and it's like computer screens, right? They provide people with a false sense of security, or, you know, you can be semi-anonymous. You know, if that's even,
no, you're right. No, it's real.
It's probably not a real word, but it's listen. You know, behind a computer screen, you know, people kind of have that's why I say a false sense of security, because we've also seen over the past 2 to 3 years, right? People, yes, not caught, but observed like under the influence. But more often, we probably observe people caught in like compromising positions or doing compromising behaviors because they think that they're not being monitored, right? And they forget to turn off their camera, whatever they're doing. But it's all evidence of people having a false sense of like security, right? And it kind of leads them, you know, to do things that they wouldn't normally do if they were reporting to the office and were under the eyes of their coworkers and their boss, right? So, of course, I mean, I would expect this, right? Like the person that goes out for a drink at 6 may start drinking at 12:30 if they work from home.
Yeah,
you know.
The issue is, like you mentioned, now you got to come back to work, right? Because now the restrictions are being lessened, and a lot of companies are like, "Oh, yeah, now COVID's gone, no more COVID. Nah, come back to work, come on back in." So now people have gotten so used to doing it, or you know, the chemical tolerance has gotten so high. It's, what are you going to do, right? How do you adjust? And I believe like the biggest barrier I feel like in this issue is going to be, you're going to have a huge percentage of people that are in denial, right? That don't really think that they have an issue. It's just, oh, I'm just coping with work. I'm just kind of getting through the day, or so on and so forth. And like they wouldn't perceive themselves as having like an addiction issue or having any type of problem. And now it's going to be like, all right, trying to manage how they can get through work or through a whole day without, like you said, that false sense of security. And some people might be able to do it, and most people aren't, though, depending on where your tolerance is and how dependent you've become on whatever the substance you're using. You're going to have some people that are going to try to sneak it to work. You're going to have some people that are going to try to do it in between breaks, all kinds of other different things. And it's going to be very evident, right? It's going to showcase and fall in overlap with your work productivity or lack of thereof, just so they can try to get a handle or manage it, but it's not going to work out. Like if you're at a certain level in whatever your usage is, it's not going to work.
You know what I would like to know too, if it varies or if it's like spikes by industry, you know, and profession, you know. If you find like, I'm not singling anybody out, but if you find like they find a significant amount of teachers returning and they have those issues, and then not a significant amount of office workers or factory workers or whatever, you know. Like, it will be interesting to see what the trends are.
There was something that came out, I think, in the Times, maybe last year sometime, like early last year, where there were like a few overdoses of like these, I don't know if they were bankers, maybe somewhere like in the banking financial field or industry, where it was like 4 or 5 different, like there was some connection where they had OD like on fentanyl, right? Because whatever drug that they were doing, they were working remotely, was laced with fentanyl. So I don't know if it was cocaine or if it was heroin, but it was either way. It was like 5 or 6 like individuals that worked in that particular like industry.
Right.
They were getting the drugs, or they were getting the stuff sent to the crib. right? While they were working, they were having their deliveries. And because it was laced with that strand, bam, happened right there.
It's crazy, man.
You know what I mean?
It's little things that go along with, the changes, right? That you don't really notice at first.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
You know, unfortunately, you're going to have some people that are going to take advantage of, the remote work. I mean, I think generally speaking, a lot of people will to a certain extent, but when it's getting to the point again, when you're using whatever these substances and, you get so far into your addiction or your usage, and now, they're worried, they're concerned of how they're going to get a handle on their substance use, because they've gotten so used to working and smoking and drinking throughout the day, right? Even while they're on, the camera's not on, they're doing it just to get through. It's going to be a problem. So I absolutely encourage, if this situation is, identify with it, or someone that does identify or having issues, don't go through this journey on your own. Absolutely seek out the help of a psychologist, an addiction specialist, or counselor to help you manage, getting through this. And we know it's been tough. Like, we've talked about this for the past year and a half of how difficult it's been just coping with COVID and all the other different, salient issues that is attached or associated with it. And this is one of them. Like we talked about, it's totally believable that this happens and took place, especially while people were working remotely. So if this is something that people have experienced that or you are yourself, please reach out. We encourage you to get the help of a professional to help you manage and cope with this situation. So
again, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I do think that one thing that might come out of this kind of aftermath of the pandemic is we did a normalization of like certain things that were a little scary before, right? Whether it be alcohol and drug use or anxiety, depression. Like, it seems like a lot of people have learned a lot about those things in the last 2-3 years because, they were kind of, not saying they were all of a sudden in our face, because you probably have a relationship to one of those things, one way or another, but, it was all at once, it was different. And this was the first time it's like, you're doing presentations to, people at work, and you're kind of talking about mental health and a lot of these things in a way people wasn't really doing before. So, maybe it might help inform us moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, Jay. Anything else before we get out of here?
I mean, bro, we should have did this in the beginning, but we always want to thank, everybody who takes the time to listen. We definitely appreciate it. Other than that, we're just gonna keep the content coming. And that's good, man. We're gonna hope the Miami Heat make it a series, but we know it's gonna be over when they get to Denver.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So absolutely continue to engage in self-care, whether it be watching the playoffs, whether it's going for a walk in nature. We're going to talk more about that, especially on our next episode, and how beneficial that is to reducing your stress and your brain health. So, moving forward, especially as we celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, please continue to prioritize your mental health. Check on your loved ones and your friends beyond the just, hey, how are you? And receiving like a stock answer, really see what's going on with your family and your family members. And if you suspect that something's not right or something's off, investigate, ask more questions, encourage someone, they get help. Support them in any way that they need is really, really important, not just this month, but of course, as we go forward, just in any month, any day of the week. But also make sure, again, it's getting warm and hot outside. All right. So you need to make sure that you are looking right by wearing that shopmentalhealthclothing.com. Go out there and order it. Show that your mental health is doing great by wearing the apparel. That's what you need to do. See what I mean? That's what you do.
Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. And you gotta promote Cammy's Closet now. Let's go.
Absolutely. Cammy'sCloset.org, Cammy's Closet Community Clothing Project.
I see y'all moving all these clothes all over there.
Yeah, listen, man, that's it. Absolutely. We gotta make sure that we keep the folks that are unfortunately not as fortunate as we are, that are experiencing financial constraints and other different types of life difficulties and challenges, that we make sure that we keep them closed, right? It's about a sense of pride. It's about that self-worth. Kami's Closet, we are here to provide brand new free clothing to these individuals. So if you are interested in helping the homeless or anyone that's in need, this is one way to do it, right? You got food banks and you also got clothing banks. We are one of those clothing banks where, hey, you donate to us, we will make sure that we continue to provide individuals with fresh, brand new clothing. All right. So kamiscloset.org for more information on how you can participate. Again, I'm going to echo everything you just mentioned, Jay. Appreciate everybody tuning in and watching on YouTube, on all the different DSPs, iHeart, Pandora, Spotify. We appreciate the love and the feedback. Continue to comment, like, share. If you don't like us, share anyway and talk shit about us. That's fine too. I like it. You know, any type of attention is good attention. But we absolutely, all jokes aside, appreciate all the support. And like Jay said, we're going to keep this edutainment content coming. All right.
There you go.
All right. Jay, until next time, and wishing everybody good mental health.
All right, brother. I'll holler at you next week.
All right, brother.